You're thinking about moving to Boston and you want to know the best suburbs or the best neighborhoods to live around Boston? Well, in this video, we're going to cover the top 5 out of niche.com, so you'll be able to just make the best decision for you and your family. What's up, everybody? My name is Rui A Coelho with eXp Realty in the greater Boston area. And if this is your first time on the channel and you want to know everything about working, eating, sleeping, playing, best neighborhoods, best suburbs, all Boston and the greater Boston area, well, make sure you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so you're notified every time we upload a video. And honestly, guys, we get so many calls about people relocating, moving, to Boston and the greater Boston area, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about relocating, moving, selling, whatever the needs are, you got to reach out to us. So please call, text, email, pigeon carrier, however you want to reach out to us. We have your back when moving to Boston and the greater Boston area. Now we're going to start off with number 5, but I want to give you guys the heads up that 4 out of the 5 of our best neighborhoods are in Cambridge. So there's going to be some statistics. I'm going to wait till we cover all 4 first to go over that, because it doesn't break it down into the neighborhoods. Some of the statistics are for the whole city itself, the city of Cambridge. So on our number 5 spot is East Cambridge. East Cambridge has a rough population of about 13,000 individuals, and it's going to be a dense urban feel. Just like any city, you're going to have a lot of bars, restaurants, there's some nightlife, there's some parks, sports activities, and it is heavily dense, with a lot of pharmaceutical companies, medical companies. The Kendall Square area is known for that. You get a little bit of MIT. So it's a great place if you're in that industry, and you want to live close to it. Everything's walkable, huge walkable part of town. Now let's get into what you guys are mainly here for, real estate. For East Cambridge, the median wholesale price is roughly about $752,000. That's the medium. So you're gonna get some, really small condos, maybe around the 6 or 7, but lately not really that much. But you can definitely see a lot of those condos that have penthouses going for 2, 3, sometimes even 4 million. So the range is really heavy on this one. If you're thinking about renting, the average rent, so whether it's a studio or a 4-bedroom, you're looking at the average at about $2,300. Again, if it's a studio, you're probably going to be pushing closer to 2. If it's a 3, 4-bedroom, honestly, I've seen some of those go into the 4,500. So there's a lot of small 1-bedroom apartments, keeping that number down. But if you need multiple bedrooms, then you're going to be practically paying for a mortgage. For accessibility, you have Route 28 that leads right to 93. You're right across the river to Boston. Really quick access to the Garden. If you need to head to Starrow Drive, it's right there. A couple of bigger streets is you got Cambridge Street that comes right through, Broadway. So you're able to get in and out of the city if you need to fairly quickly. You're going to run into a little bit of traffic because you are a little bit closer to Boston than the other parts of Cambridge, but the transit system is great there. You do have some T-stops, plenty of buses, and then of course lots of taxis and share rides like Uber and stuff like that. Now for shopping, you do have a lot of mom and pop stores. There's a fish market, there's bakeries. East Cambridge has a lot of Portuguese influence, so you're going to see a bunch of Portuguese shops, a couple of Portuguese restaurants. I grew up in East Cambridge. My family's Portuguese, so I'm pretty familiar with that area. But you do have a lot of parks as well. So you get pretty much everything you need to live day to day there. But you also have the opportunity to go out a little bit further to some bigger shops. There's obviously Targets around, there's Market Baskets around, so Market Basket is our local supermarket if for people that aren't in the know yet. Um, Stop and Shop, Shaw's, all the big typical stuff. Now, a few things that you can do in East Cambridge. There's the Museum of Science, great place to go to whether you're a kid or an adult. They have great stuff there. There's the Galleria Mall, tons of shops, big shops, tons of nice restaurants in there. So I suggest if you're in the area, go check that out as well. But another thing to do, it's available only on the weekends, but it's called Go Pixel Yourself. And the best way to describe it is if it's a 13-room photo booth. If you ever had a photo booth, at a wedding or whatnot, and you wish you had more than just one background, well, this is the place for you. They have professional cameras, take pictures of you, videos of you. You can do this as a group. You buy tickets and you go through. Great place. The photos come out awesome, and it's just a fun time out. They're open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so make sure you get your tickets in there. Another thing to do in East Cambridge, if you like outdoors and you like the water, is the Charles River Canoe and Kayak Company. It's a great place. You can rent canoe or kayaks. You can go out, explore Boston, go up and down the Charles River, have some great times. You can go through a group, or if you want to do it as a date, it's a great date option as well. So check them out. All these places I'm mentioning, I'll have links to their websites down in the description, so make sure to check them out. Some of the rankings for East Cambridge according to niche.com is, of course, it's number 5 on the list, best neighborhood to live near Boston, but it's number 4, best neighborhood to live in Cambridge itself. Number 3, best neighborhood to live as a young professional, and number 4, best neighborhood to raise a family in Cambridge. Now, Niche reports that the average income yearly for someone that lives in East Cambridge is about $96,000. Again, I'm not sure where they're getting all these numbers from, but I'll have a link down in the description, as always, to niche.com, so you can get all this information for yourself. But I'm going to post a little pictures here and there so you can check it out as well. Now, coming in at number 4 is the PBD neighborhood of Cambridge. Roughly, the population is about 15,000, and you got a good urban feel to it, just like the rest of Cambridge. You're going to hear me say this multiple times, but it's more of a more historic area. You have Harvard University to the south, Porter Square to the north, Harvard Square to the south as well. So it's nestled in a pretty good area for accessibility to transits, or if you're looking for shops and restaurants. There are a couple good fields too if you like to go to the park and whatnot. But the architecture there is so awesome. The old buildings look beautiful. For real estate, the median home sale price is going to be about $882 for that. Renting, if you think about renting, you're looking at about $2,200. So it seems to be a little bit more reasonable than our first one, East Cambridge. But you are further away from Boston, so if that's important to you, there are a lot more condos and apartment style buildings in this area, so you're not going to get too many single family homes, but it's still a nice area, pretty central location too. You're able to get to Somerville if you need to get to on the Route 2, if you need to get into Boston, Belmont. It's all pretty much right there for you. Now, if you're looking for things to do in PPD, you do have a lot of big parks you can go to. But as for, sort of things to do to plan your weekend, Harvard University does have a few museums you can attend to, natural history sort of stuff. And they're great, great little trips to go to. And then you can head over to Harvard Square and experience Harvard Square for yourself there. Couple more rankings for the PBD neighborhood is number 3, best neighborhood to live in all of Cambridge itself. Number 3, best neighborhood to raise a family in Cambridge. And that makes sense. There are a lot of parks, and it's a little bit more of a tone down. It's not as rowdy with, night bar clubs and stuff like that. So It does sort of fit the bill that it'll be more oriented to a family. But with that said, there are plenty of things to do if you're single. If you're thinking about going to school in Cambridge and Harvard Square, and or Leslie College is one of your choices, the PBD area is going to be right there. You're going to be able to walk to either one of those colleges. Now heading into our number 3 is Cambridgeport. Cambridgeport has roughly 14,000 for their population, and it's nestled just a little north of MIT, right still up against the Charles, so it's fairly close to East Cambridge. But the feel for it when you drive through it is a little bit a tight urban feel is what they call it, is what Niche calls it. But you're going to have a lot of multifamily homes, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. So you're going to see a lot more rentals available in this area. With that said, there are some parks strewn out the neighborhood. They're not very large. Some of these other neighborhoods that we're mentioning are going to have larger parks. These are going to have some parks, but they're going to be smaller, but they're sporadic. They're spread out throughout the neighborhood quite nicely. As for bars and nightlife and stuff like that, you don't have too many. You do brush up against Mass Ave, so there's going to be lots of bars, lots of nightlife there. If you are a musician, there are a ton of places. If you want to throw your hat in the ring and play on the stage on some of these bars, they do accept musicians. You do have a lot of companies here as well, though. So you're gonna have again, Cambridge is huge on pharmaceutical companies and medical companies, so you do have some of those there. As for amenities, I mentioned they have the parks. You do have quick access to Boston. I-90, the Pike is right across the river for you, so if you need to get into Western Mass, or maybe if you're going to New York or Connecticut, you can jump on the Pike there. There are some supermarkets in the area. They have Whole Foods. Everybody knows who Whole Foods is, but you also have Trader Joe's, which is, you can think of it as more of a local Whole Foods. They're smaller. They are around Massachusetts and other parts of New England, I believe, but they're great if you want to shop local. Every time I've gone in there, no matter what store I've been into, everybody greets you. They're really nice, and they have some wine there. They used to call it $2 Chuck, because it used to be $2 for a great bottle of wine. I think it's a little bit more now, but if you ever head into there, definitely check that out. Now getting into the real estate, Cambridgeport is actually going to be pretty reasonable. Again, this is comparing to other neighborhoods in Cambridge, but you're looking at about, on average, the median is going to be about $820,000. Renting is going to be about $2,300. So rent-wise, definitely right in line with everybody else on this list. Now, Niche.com has a couple of extra rankings for Cambridgeport. It is number 2 best neighborhood to live overall in Cambridge, which is great. It is number 2 best neighborhood to live as a young professional. So if you're hustling, going back to work, you're not making too much money, but you're working at it, you're working hard, they're saying that this is a good place for you to live. And then number 2, most diverse neighborhood out of Cambridge. There's one thing you got to keep in mind about this. The average income is that it's just the average. All of the ones in Cambridge and then our number 1 spot are probably going to be about the same. But keep in mind, right? Why is the income higher in these areas? Well, what's available there, the companies that are available there. You have a lot of pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer, Moderna. They're out there in Cambridge. You have a lot of universities, so their professors are going to be there. A lot of scientists live in the area, so just keep that in mind. When you look at Niche.com, they give you a range from under $25,000 a year up to over $150,000 a year. So the range is huge there. So, I just wanted to mention that if you guys were wondering where these numbers are coming from. Again, these are coming from Niche.com. Now, heading up our number 2 slot is the Port in Cambridge. Don't confuse that as Cambridgeport. It's the Port. It's just a little bit east of Cambridgeport, right? It's actually right now nestled in between East Cambridge and Cambridgeport. So just keep that in mind. So you're still going to be close to Boston, the Charles River, MIT is right there. So a lot of the influences of work and stuff is still gonna be there. The population for the port is going to be a little bit less. It's about 9,000, and that makes sense. There are a lot more commercial buildings, larger structures here that aren't for homes. So that kind of makes sense there. Once you get out there and walking around, you're gonna realize what I'm talking about here. The feel of it is going to be a urban suburban feel. What that means is homes aren't going to be as tight together. You're going to have a little bit more yards in these neighborhoods. So you're still in the city, but being able to have a backyard or even parking spacing that's off street is going to be key. Now, if you're looking at about what you can do in the port, there are parks, just like in the other neighborhoods. Not as many, but there are some. But you do have a lot of brewers in this area. You have the Cambridge Brewing Company, which I highly suggest. They're a great place. You have Lord Hobo. If you haven't heard of Lord Hobo, big IPAs, that's the place to go. Again, there are a lot of laboratories there. You have the MIT Museum that's right nearby. You can check out. So there are things to do. Now, for real estate, the average price for a home in the port is about $630,000. Rent is at its lowest at about $2,000. Now, this sort of throws me off for a loop because you would think it'd be a little bit more, if not, or at least on par with the others. Especially with all the good rankings. So it could be that just the fact there are a lot of more bigger companies here that people don't want to live near them, and that's sort of affecting the price. So that might be something you want to look into if you're thinking about moving in 5 or 10 years after purchasing. That's going to affect your home resale value. Now, getting into the rankings that niche.com gives the port is number 1 for young professionals, number 1 to live in Cambridge in general, and then number 1 best places to raise a family in Cambridge. So again, that probably has something to do with you get a little bit more space. You probably get a little bit more house for your money as well. So people feel a little bit more comfortable, having a family there because they can go out back, play in the yard instead of having to, go down to the parks and stuff like that. Now, like I was saying before, there are a couple of things I want to go over that's from niche.com that because of the different neighborhoods, for some reason they just didn't populate, they didn't give that information. So I had to get into the Cambridge as a whole itself for some of these statistics. One that I found was really awesome for Cambridge itself. It is number 5 best cities to live in America, whereas Boston was rated number 39 on niche.com. So again, check out niche.com. Make the decisions yourself if these are the places you want to live in. Population for Cambridge themselves is about 116,000, and on average, just so we're keeping everything together, on average, the median wholesale price is about 765,000. Some of the rankings for Cambridge is number 1 best city for young professionals to live in all of America, which is pretty neat. Number 2 best suburb to live in all of America, which kind of is the same thing, I guess. I don't know about that niche.com. I don't know where how you're figuring these things out, but hey, that's good for Cambridge. And number 5 best city to live in general in Cambridge. Those are some pretty good statistics out of all of America. Now, going over the one statistic that they didn't break up for each neighborhood is the crime. Niche.com gives it a C+ rating, but the link is in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Now, without further ado, our number 1 on the list is the city of Brookline. Brookline has a rough population of 60,000, and it's located just on the other side of Charles from Cambridge, so sort of nestled between Boston and Cambridge, right there. Brookline is a great place to live, just like Cambridge. If you don't want to live right in Boston, you want to live just out of Boston, and you want to have Still that city feel, great place to live. Uh, if you're looking for things to do in Brookline, a couple places that I would recommend to check out is the JFK Museum. It's actually the home that JFK was born in, born and raised in Brookline. Um, great, great piece of history there. Another cool thing to do in Brookline is the Coolidge Theater. It's a great retro movie theater if you like that retro feel. They actually play older movies on top of the newer releases as well. But they're not just a movie theater, they actually involve in the community. If you like to make your own video, your own movie, and you want to see it up on the big screen and have people come in and watch it, they allow you to do that too. So I really suggest you check them out if you're into film and photography. Another great thing to do there, and if you're into cars, is they have the Lars Auto Museum, and not only get to check out, um, you know, some classic hot rods, but they have some older vehicles like that predate the Model T. It's a great place if you like auto history, but it's not just that. The building that it's located in and the surrounding buildings are phenomenal to look at if you like architecture as well. Now, getting into the real estate part of it is now getting into real estate part of Brookline. On average, home sale price is about $933,000. Rentals are about $22,000 a month. Again, that ranges from 1,800. If you can find a 4-bedroom in Brookline, you're one of the lucky ones, but you're going to be paying. I've seen rentals in Brooklyn go 5, sometimes 6,000 if you're looking for something with a lot of bedrooms in it. Nightlife, there's an abundant supply of things to do at night, whether it's bars, whether it's restaurants. A lot of these bars support local musicians, so there are a lot of local artists that live in Brookline that take advantage of there to get their names out, to get recognized. The average household income for Brookline is about $117,000, give or take, which is awesome. And again, the area commands it. You do have a lot of, just like Cambridge, medical facilities. Boston and Massachusetts in general are known, New England in general are known for having a lot of higher education schools and then having some of the best medical facilities in the country, if not on the planet. A couple of rankings for Brookline is number 1, best places to live in Massachusetts in general. Number 2, rated best neighborhood to live in Massachusetts in general. Again, similar to Cambridge. What's the difference? Maybe it's considered, it's technically a suburb of Boston, so they're probably grouping that into that as well. But and out of all the school districts in Massachusetts, it's rated number 2 best schools. I covered it with Cambridge. I'll cover it with Brookline as well. The crime and safety on there, niche.com gives it about a B- rating. Take that as you will. Again, do the research yourself. Go on to niche.com, look at the ratings, look at what they look at. But another good source of that is, go onto the local websites, the town website, the police website. Call them if you have any questions about the area. They're going to be truthful with you because they're going to want you to know. And those are the top 5 neighborhoods to live in Boston. But again, you got to reach out to us to find out the best neighborhood or area that you want to move to or go see. In order to do that, you got to give us a call, shoot us a text, send an email, send a pigeon to carrier. However you want to reach out to us, we got you back when moving to Boston and the greater Boston area. And until next time, I'll catch you later.